Welcome back to the channel, Cowboys Nation. Today we've got breaking news straight out of Dallas, and this one is going to shake up conversations all across the fan base. The Cowboys have officially announced 8 roster cuts, and along with those moves, a major update has been revealed about Mazi Smith's future with the team. This is one of those moments in the preseason where the front office and coaching staff make decisions that can change the shape of the roster and potentially impact how the season plays out. It's the time of year when players' dreams either come alive or come crashing down, and the Cowboys' latest moves have given fans plenty to talk about. So let's dive into every detail, every player impacted, and what this means not just for the upcoming season but also for the bigger picture of where the Dallas Cowboys are heading. The Cowboys entered this week with a full roster and needed to trim down to get closer to that 53-man threshold, and as always, some of the names cut are surprising while others were more expected. The 8 players released represent a mixture of young prospects who couldn't quite break through, depth pieces who didn't separate themselves from the competition, and a few veterans whose time with the team has run its course. Each cut, though, tells us something about how the Cowboys coaching staff views its depth chart right now. Fans know that training camp and preseason games are additions, and if you don't deliver or show that you're a reliable piece, the organization doesn't hesitate to move on. Among the most surprising names let go were a couple of younger players who had flashes of talent but ultimately couldn't prove they belong. The Cowboys have been trying to balance giving opportunities to late-round picks and undrafted free agents with the reality that only so many roster spots are available. Every year, at least one player who was once hyped as a potential hidden gem finds himself out of the picture, and that's exactly what happened again with these latest cuts. Some fans may feel disappointed or even frustrated, especially if they had hopes for one or two of these guys becoming future contributors. But this is part of the harsh reality of the NFL. The cuts also give us insight into where the Cowboys feel they already have strong depth. For example, releasing certain players at linebacker or wide receiver shows confidence in the starters and backups ahead of them. At the same time, some of the cuts on the offensive and defensive lines reveal which battles were already decided internally, even if the public thought those competitions were still wide open. Every release is a clue, and Cowboys insiders are already reading between the lines about how Mike McCarthy and his staff are envisioning the roster moving forward. Of course, the big storyline overshadowing all of these roster cuts is the status of Mazi Smith. The Cowboys' 2023 first-round pick came into the league with high expectations as a run-stuffing defensive tackle who could help transform Dallas's ability to control the line of scrimmage. But his rookie year was disappointing, and questions quickly began to mount about whether he could live up to the hype. Fans watched last season as Smith often looked overmatched, struggling to adapt to the speed, physicality, and technique required at the NFL level. And when your first-round pick doesn't produce, the scrutiny is always magnified. Now, though, we finally have clarity about his future in Dallas, and the news is making waves. Reports indicate that the Cowboys are not ready to give up on Mazi Smith. Instead, the coaching staff and front office still view him as a major piece of their defensive plans moving forward. The message coming out of the Star is that Smith is being given every opportunity to develop, and they believe his ceiling remains high. That doesn't mean he's guaranteed a starting spot, but it does mean the Cowboys want to invest more time and energy into helping him reach his potential. For fans who feared Smith might already be on the chopping block or destined to fade into irrelevance, this is a crucial update. Defensive line coach Aiden Durd and defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer are said to be working closely with Smith, focusing on refining his technique, improving his leverage, and building his confidence. The organization knows he has the size and strength to be an impact player, but unlocking that ability is about refining the details. The team is also encouraged by the work Smith has put in during the offseason, reportedly showing up leaner, quicker, and more focused. In camp, he's had moments where he looks like the disruptive presence the Cowboys drafted him to be, and while consistency is still a challenge, it's enough for the staff to keep faith. This update about Mazi Smith is especially important because the Cowboys' run defense was one of their biggest weaknesses last season. Too often, opposing offenses were able to pick up chunk yards on the ground, wearing down the defense and putting extra pressure on the offense to keep up. If Smith can develop into the type of anchor the Cowboys envisioned, that weakness could be turned into a strength. Imagine pairing Micah Parsons' pass rushing dominance with a defensive line that also controls the run game. It would make the entire unit more dangerous and balanced. That's the vision the Cowboys are still holding on to, and why they're not giving up on Smith just yet. Meanwhile, back to the roster cuts, each one has ripple effects for other players. When someone is released, it often means another player has earned a longer look. For example, certain fringe receivers sticking around suggest the Cowboys are intrigued by their potential on special teams, or perhaps see them as developmental prospects with upside in the passing game. Similarly, keeping certain defensive backs indicates that the secondary depth chart may already be shaping up, even before final cuts are announced. Fans who pay close attention to the bottom of the roster know these decisions matter sometimes. The difference between being the 52 ND or 53 RD player on the roster and being cut can come down to who contributes more on kick coverage or punt return units. For veterans who were released, the cuts also speak volumes. The NFL is a young man's game, and if a veteran isn't bringing significant value on the field or in the locker room, the Cowboys are not going to hold on to them simply out of loyalty. This shows that Dallas is fully focused on building a roster that maximizes potential and impact, regardless of past reputation. That's a tough pill for some fans to swallow, especially when a familiar name is cut, but ultimately, this is the type of tough decision-making required to build a championship-caliber roster. The big picture here is that the Cowboys are making moves to tighten up their depth chart, get younger and faster in some areas, and maintain competition across the board. While these 8 cuts are significant, they're just part of the ongoing process leading up to the regular season. More moves will follow, and the final 53-man roster will likely include surprises as well as disappointments. But for now, these decisions provide a window into how the team is prioritizing certain positions and players. It also tells us something about how Dallas is thinking strategically. The fact that Mazi Smith's future is still secure despite a rocky start indicates that the team values patience and development when it comes to its top investments. At the same time, the willingness to move on quickly from other players, even ones with potential, shows that the Cowboys won't waste time if they don't see a clear path forward. It's a balance between giving certain players time to grow and cutting others to make room for different options. That balance is what makes roster construction one of the most fascinating parts of the NFL. As training camp winds down and preseason games continue, the spotlight will remain firmly on Mazi Smith and whether he can make noticeable strides. Every snap he takes will be dissected by fans and analysts, and every practice report will be parsed for signs of progress. That's the reality for a first-round pick on a team with championship aspirations. But with the coaching staff still believing in his future, Smith has an opportunity to change the narrative and prove he belongs in the conversation as a key piece of this defense. The roster cuts, meanwhile, are a reminder of how competitive the NFL truly is. 8 players' dreams of wearing the star on their helmet have ended, at least for now, and while some may find opportunities elsewhere, others may see their professional careers come to a close. For the players who remain, these cuts are also a wake-up call. Nothing is guaranteed, and every rep matters. That level of urgency can sometimes bring out the best in a roster, pushing players to work harder, fight for every inch, and prove their worth. Cowboys Nation will be watching closely as the team continues to shape its roster, and especially as Mazi Smith's journey unfolds. Will he rise to the challenge and deliver on the promise that made him a first-round pick? Will the defensive line finally become the dominant force fans have been waiting for? Those questions won't be fully answered until the regular season kicks off, but the latest news gives us a clear picture of the direction the Cowboys are heading. So as the preseason rolls on and the countdown to Week 1 continues, keep your eyes on these developments. The 8 roster cuts may just be the beginning of the tough choices ahead, and Mazi Smith's story is far from finished. But one thing is certain, the Dallas Cowboys are making moves, and every decision is made with one goal in mind: building a team capable of competing for a Super Bowl. That's all for now, Cowboys Nation. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that like button so you don't miss any of the latest updates, as we track every roster move, every player battle, and every storyline coming out of Dallas. This is going to be a season filled with drama, excitement, and big moments, and you'll want to be here for all of it.